Headphones, I need my headphones. Well, hello, friends. Don't mind me. I'm just playing with the new Endorphin sample module called Two of Cups. We're going to be talking about Two of Cups today, and we're going to be talking about Total Recall. I'm really excited about Total Recall. So let's talk about Two of Cups real quick, because it's pretty simple, but pretty cool. It is a two-voice sample playback device, meaning that it can play two samples back. Voice 1, voice 2. We have control over pitch, either continuously or via a 1 volt per octave in, meaning this thing will respond to pitched CV. We have control over the sample. We also have control in blue mode over decay. Another cool thing about it is that if you are to patch clock into it, it will do some fun shit. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to take a clock out of Pamela's new workout, and right now it's at 1 pulse per quarter note. And what this is going to do is roll or repeat at the clock rate. Let's change our sample bank real quick. If you hold this down, you will go between the sample banks, and you can have, I believe, 8 sample banks. And each voice can have up to 24 samples in it at the time of recording. They actually upgraded it from 10 to 24, just like with a firmware update while I was working on this. So let's get a little beat on the ground control real quick so you can hear this roll. All right, so check this out. I'm going to increase the clock rate of this thing coming from Pam's, and listen to what we can do here. Let's go faster. So we can perform with that. Let's try something fun real quick. I'm going to take a tryout out and put it into here. And I'm going to change the output of this Pam's channel speed to CV1. Now I have control over my ratchet, which I think is pretty cool. As you might expect, we also have the ability to travel through the samples. So that's done via the Meta 1 and Meta 2 CV inputs. Let's try that real quick. I'm going to take an output of my voltage block. I guess we probably should sequence this first, shouldn't we? Let's go to here. There we go. So we can control what sample's playing back. Of course, we can do this more hands-on if we want, if we use a control. It's always good to be able to go through a bank of samples, especially with percussion. I'm actually going to sample this real quick into Morphagene. Let's record. Let's find a bank here that has a pitched thing going on. I have some single note pitches on here, like these basses right here. Well, those are loud, aren't they? Brand new output from here into key in 1, and an output from here into key in 2. And yeah, let's see what happens. Let's get some meta going on at the same time and just see how wild we can make this. So yeah, it's always nice to be able to use something like this for both percussion samples, but also for extra, like, color. You know what I mean? So that's Two of Cups, a very small little friend that can play back samples for you and can use a clock in to do fun rolls. So it's always nice to be able to perform with your little sampler. enough out of you, my friend. Let's have a nice little background here. I've really been enjoying passing things into Morphagene to do this kind of stuff to them. So let's talk about Total Recall. This is a really cool module, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I want you to keep an eye on our scope right here, on our data. And what's going on is that I have the three outputs of the three CV outputs of Total Recall going in here. And as I turn these knobs, you're going to see that they move. I'm in bipolar mode right now. There's also a unipolar mode. So we have three knobs that create bipolar or unipolar CV. You're like, okay, great. Well, what's the point? Well, the point is that there are 8 banks on here, and each one can have a different configuration of these three knobs. And then you can move through the banks either manually or with CV, and you can move through them non-linearly or linearly. And there's a smoothing algorithm that will smooth between the states if you want to. That's the main mode. There's a second mode called macro mode that I'll talk about a little bit, but I want you to get a taste of the power of this thing when it comes to pushing around an oscillator like the Loquelic Iteritas Percido. I always worry that I'm going to mispronounce those. Let's get a sequence going on the LIP here, and then we'll start plugging stuff in. Alrighty, now that we have a sequence, we can start having some fun. So the reason that we're going to be using the LIP here from Noise Engineering is the sheer range of tone that's available to us. So actually, I'm going to stop this real quick and put this into free running mode. And I'm going to take these 3 cables that are coming out of Mordec's data, which are going to pass through our signal from this friend right here, from Total Recall. And I'm going to put this into Morph, Fold, and I'm going to put it into Mod. And actually, I'm going to take all 3 of these controls and I'm going to put them right in the middle, and we're going to switch to bipolar mode. So now I can move to the left or right of each one of these knobs. So let's set up some presets. It's really easy to do. Let's leave that one as it is. Hit sample. I'm on the next one. Sample. 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 Go back to normal. Sample. Sample. 2 more. And sample. Now we're back to the beginning. I'm going to turn smoothing off real quick, and I'm going to take a channel out of stages here. We're going to make it a continuous output. Watch. Those are all the presets that we just set up. Pretty neat, right? It's a series of presets of voltage snapshots that you set up that you can then send to anything. Like, the sky is the limit with this. It's really wild. Like, you can send this to Morphagene to create preset states. You could send this to your delay to create like different timings. So we've been using a continuous output right here that we can move through, but we can also use something that sequences for us. So for instance, we could use Le Voltage block. I'm going to use channel 1. Let's go ahead and do that. So are you thinking about how powerful this could be? Like how being able to set up a triple CV snapshot and sending it out to a device could be fun? Well, hopefully that's the case. What we're going to do next is we're going to show you off what happens when you plug CV in to these. So I'm going to unplug our meta thing for right now, so we're not traveling through. And I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to take an output of maths, and I'm going to do the same thing over CV. This one right here. Let's take an output of here, this LFO output here. So what happens when you put CV into the total recall is it becomes either a attenuver, meaning that in unipolar mode, these now attenuate the amount of, let's go back to here. These now attenuate the amount of modulation passing through, or a polarizer. So let's play around with that. I'm going to go ahead and there we go. Those are the 3 modulation things that we were passing through. So now if I hit play, instead of, and you can actually see it on the scope over here too. Look at them go. You can also polarize this. And that can be snapshotted and you can move through that too. So very, very, very like mercurial sort of device here in that we can set it directly to something like an oscillator or an effect and have it do things to it. And we can also have it mess with the CV that we put into it, either via attenuation or polarization. So one thing that we haven't tried yet is what happens if we use this to modulate another modulator? Meaning what happens if we send these CV values to maths to like play with the rise and fall. So let's do that. I don't know what we're going to do with 3. We'll figure it out. So let's turn this to loop. Right now we are hearing maths. God, it's already fucking cool, isn't it? Maths is modulating our LIP. Now, if I turn this up, you'll see that we're controlling the rise and fall of maths, right? Oh my God, I love it so much. There we go. Oh God, it's so cool. Oh, see, the thing about these noise engineering oscillators I love so much is that you think you know it, and then like you spend just like a little bit more time with it, and you're like, what the Christ is happening here? And a bunch of modulation all passing through it at once is definitely giving us that vibe. So let us now snapshot some of this stuff. We're using bipolar mode, which means we can go positive and negative with the speeds of our oscillators. I'm going to put this back to this. Let's go our first mode, our first one here. And nice and slow for this one. That sounds good. Sounds good to me. Let's hear how that sounds. We're going to pass through the CV, pass through our snapshots here with CV from our friend here. We have smoothing on, so it should smooth through the things. Let's hear how this sounds. I'm sorry, but If this isn't like making you very happy to hear, I don't know if we can be friends. I love it. I think it's amazing. And I want you to think about all the applications that this has in your rec. You can attenuate and process CV that's coming into it. You can snapshot the 3 continuous CV things here and move through those, which means that anything that has any kind of CV control, basically this becomes a preset designer. And I've already shown you that like we can move through the CV with a control, which means we have control over like snapshots, which is rad. I love it. I really like the smoothing function. I think it's really, really cool and offers a lot of awesome sort of like slidey around fun things. So I love Total Recall, but we're not done yet. No, you thought we were done. We're not fucking done yet. Idiots. What else can we do? Well, there's another mode on here. There's actually a bunch of variations on the modes. We're going to talk about macro mode. Macros. Who's into macros? Okay, so we're going to hold this down for a couple seconds, 3 seconds. After we've held it down for a few seconds, we get into what's called macro mode. And if you keep your eyes on the scope here, you'll see that we don't have anything coming out of our third knob on its own voltage anymore. We have a min and a max right here. So with these set, we basically create a range of voltage that we can move between via this right here. And you'll see that the corresponding LED here shows that range now coming out. It can be bipolar as well if we want it to. Hi everybody, it's Future Jeremy here. I sent this off to Endorphins for them to take a look at it to make sure I hadn't missed anything, and indeed I had. In fact, this whole next section where I'm going to be using Triat to molt the signal out and set different levels in macro mode through Triat can be done in the module. So in macro mode, we have the 4th LED constantly lit, but as we press this, we switch between the 3 outputs here, and each one can have a different min-max set. So keep an eye on the scope right now. We're in bipolar mode. I'm on the first preset here. I'm going to set this fully high, fully low, and I'm going to set this one the opposite way, and I'm going to set this one sort of like this. Now, keep an eye on the scope and see what happens when I change this. See how they all smoothly move through? So in macro mode, it really does operate like a macro knob, and all 3 outputs here can be engaged to send out different levels of CV with one knob like this, which means you can control things like multiple filters at once that maybe have different directions to their cutoff. You can increase and decrease effects. I think one of the ways that Endorphin talks about using it is like doing a high pass filter and a reverb at the same time, and the high pass filter would need to go like down and the reverb would need to go up. So everything I'm about to show you with Triat involved can be done and better within Total Recall. So just a quick note from Future Jeremy here. That makes this even more powerful, honestly. So yeah, keep that in mind as you watch the next section. 1, 2, 3. So let's set these all to positive voltage, turn them all the way down, and hit play. Nothing should happen right now. But as I increase these, we're going to increase the amount of this min-max voltage that is going to our friend here. So this is going to morph. Let's set the range. This is going to fold. And this is going to mod. So in combination with something that can attenuate voltage or polarize voltage or attenuate voltage, you can use the one out of this to have a single control over up to like, you know, however many of these channels that you have. Otherwise, it's just a single CV out here, you know. But this is really cool because now I I have one knob to rule 3 parameters. And what does meta mode do in this? Well, it goes between max and min. So let's do that. Let's assign a LFO to that, shall we? Actually, let's go here. Let's go with this right here. I lied, we're going to use an LFO. The cool thing about this also is that you'd think the min and max would be set and forget, but they don't have to be. Like, you can move these around while you move this around to give you extra fun times in modulation land. Guess what? Because something like maths can also be triggered, take it off cycle mode, this can become a macro envelope, a macro modulation envelope generator. So I'm going to take 7 here. So what we've done here is used a gate to trigger an envelope, which is now moving through the min-max that we have done in our total recall, which is being sent to our oscillators, molted through triad. So it becomes it becomes a very, very complex sort of like modulation chain that can do a lot of stuff at once, which I personally love. Okay, I'm going to jam on this a bit. Let's do a quick little recap of what we got going on. We have Two of Cups, which is a dual channel sample playback device with up to 8 banks. Each bank can have 2 voices. Each voice can have up to 24 samples that you can pitch, or you can, and you can move through with meta input. It has controls intermittently via this button for pitch, sample selection, and decay. And if you send it a clock in, it will roll for you by pressing down these right here. We then have Total Recall, which has 3 CV ins and outs. The outs in normal mode 1 operation can have snapshots of those 3 CV values, either in positive, unipolar, or bipolar modes. You can then move through those preset snapshots either manually or with a CV control. You can smooth them via the smooth control right here. If you put CV into these, the snapshots then choose how much of that CV passes through, meaning that you can attenuate or polarize the CV that's going through it. And again, those can be saved as snapshots and you can move through them and smooth them. And then there's macro mode, which allows you to set minimal outputs and maximum outputs for channels 1, 2, and 3, unipolar or bipolar, and then use one knob to move between those 2 states, meaning that all 3 outputs now have a specific voltage range they will set out that you control with one knob. A lot of control in one little tiny place, and I love it to death. So, thanks for watching. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. I'm going to play a little bit. I hope you have a wonderful day.